All right, ladies and gentlemen, as promised, we are back for another video with Recollection Road. And this title right here, I just had to see this, especially in the 80s, you know, things rich kids had in the 1980s that you wanted. Boy, I'm just trying to think, was there anything I wanted in the 80s? I feel like I was a happy kid with what I had. I know I didn't really want much. I had a bike. I had a couple of toys, had a Nintendo. I think I was good. And everybody around me pretty much had the same thing. But, you know, when you grow up living in the ghetto, you don't really know of much more that's out there, you know. Your parents only going to show you, like, hey, you go to the store, don't you even look at it. Don't look at it. So I'm excited to check this out again. I'll leave the link to their channel in the description, man. Comment below if you had this. It's all right. It's all right if you had it, you know. It's all right if you had it. I ain't saying you were rich. You know, a lot of stuff was, I mean, well, the cost of living was different back then, but, you know, we're going to see what they got. So, again, ain't going to waste no more time. Let's jump right into it.
The 1980s was a time when everything was changing. Some kids always seemed to be on the cutting edge of technological advances and fashion trends, and they always seemed to have expensive tastes. We all grew up knowing someone who had it all. It might have been one particular friend, or maybe it was just a random kid who was spoiled rotten. So let's take a look back at some things that meant you were rich during the 1980s.
All right, let's see what they got. The 80s.
Some larger, more affluent houses during the 1980s were equipped with an intercom system that allowed family members to communicate from across the house. Yelling was how it was done in most homes.
Yep.
But for a 1980s rich kid, an intercom system was how they were beckoned down for dinner.
Oh, that yelling is so accurate.
Having your own dedicated phone line was a classic rich kid perk, but couple that with the coolest novelty phone, and you were the envy of the neighborhood. Maybe it was a Garfield phone,
I remember
or
those.
maybe it was one of the clear phones that lit up when it rang.
Oh.
But either way, it was cool, and you knew you were...
Hell, we wasn't rich, but I think my sister had one of those. I'm trying to, now, okay. I know this says the 1980s, but I'm wondering when this stuff went out of style. Because I'm kind of thinking back, and my mind immediately goes to Compton. I think we had one of them clear phones in Compton, and I was 12, and that was 1992, and that was during the Rodney King riots when I was living in these duplexes. I feel like we had one of them phones. I low-key kind of hated it because it looked like it was broke. Look at that. Look like they about to turn into the Power Rangers.
that lit up when it rang. But either way, it was cool, and you knew you were from a fancy family in the 1980s if your phone was cleverly disguised as something
A
else.
hamburger. I remember the lip phone.
Recollection Road is proud to partner with Legacy Box. Get early access to the best deal of the year. Watch until the end of this video to see why Legacy Box is the perfect gift this holiday season. And then visit legacybox.com/recollection for an incredible 65% off. When it came to bundling up in the 1980s, there was only one type of jacket to have if you wanted to show off you had a little money. London fog jackets shielded you from rain, snow, and the jealous stares of peers as you arrived at school. These jackets came in a variety of styles and colors, but the only thing that mattered was that large tag that showcased the name London Fog.
For me, it was starter jackets.
It was one thing to have a finished basement, but if you had a basement bar, then you were rich. It was even better if the mini fridge was kept stocked with Sunny D or ice-cold sodas. Often you may have found a pool table down there too, which really amazed friends. It was like a real-life Cheers right in your basement, and meant you were living the high life.
Nice.
There were many different brands
Oh.
of jeans that could be worn during the 1980s.
Oh,
There
Lord.
was Lee, Levi's, Bugle Boy, and Jordache. But if you walked into school wearing a pair of Guess jeans with the upside-down
Hey.
triangle logo on your back
Hey.
pocket, you were letting
Boy, ooh. Let me tell y'all something. I remember I forgot. I don't know if I saved up or what I did, but I got me a pair of Guess shoes, and you could not tell me nothing. I had the black ones and these tan and brown ones, and I was going to Compton High School. Yes, Guess was, if you wore Guess, you had some money. You had some money, because those things were expensive back in the day. They were. I remember I had 2 pairs of shoes. Damn, was I rich? No. How old was I? I forgot. I forgot how I got them. Somebody had a job and got them for me, though.
everyone know you were a member of an elite group. Guess jeans advertised on MTV and in fashion-forward teen magazines, with beautiful celebrities pushing their denim.
Yep.
So they were an obvious choice for the rich kids.
Dang.
If you peeked inside the fridge at a friend's
Oh.
house and saw the likes of Grey Poupon in the door, then you knew they were on another level.
Boy.
You knew the commercials for sure, but probably had never tasted the specialty mustard yourself. There were also other signs that your friend had money. And if you opened the freezer and saw a Viennetta ice cream cake, you knew. The ribbons of ice cream just looked expensive, and it made the Neapolitan block of ice cream at your house pale in comparison.
I remember those commercials. Never tried them.
Did you know someone who wore multiple Swatch watches at the
Yes.
same time?
Yes.
If so, then they were probably one of the rich kids. The colorful and eye-catching plastic watches were big sellers in the 1980s, and many of us had one, but it was saying something if you sported 2 or 3 of them on one arm. If you think back to the 1980s, having a VCR was still a pretty big deal. You could record movies off the TV and watch them back whenever, but the real power play was having a library of bought VHS movies next to the TV. They didn't just rent movies from Blockbuster. They had so much money, they bought the tape outright.
Damn.
During the 1980s, if you had a collection like this, you were living a good life.
That was a great collection of movies there.
For some of us, having a piano in a formal living room meant you were pretty rich. This also meant that you had someone living in the house that was sophisticated enough to play the thing. It was even more impressive if it was a grand piano with the top propped open. When it came time to go school shopping, did your mom take you to the local discount store, or were you lucky enough to head off to the mall for a day of shopping? Mall stores always had the expensive and trendiest looks. Not only could you stop by boutique stores like Merry-Go-Round, County Seat, and Foot Locker, but you could also shop at large department stores like Dillard's.
I think as a kid, I went to the mall. I remember I got really, really, really good grades on my report card. I always used to. And I remember my father took me to get a pair of shoes. I think that might have been the only time I had ever stepped foot in the mall. Ever. Other than that, I think it was like Payless or I don't know. Like when I had shoes, I took care of them because I knew I wasn't going to be getting a lot. But yeah, I don't recall ever really going to the mall as a kid. Oh no.
Macy's and JCPenney.
You can't even find shoes in the mall
Speaking
no
of
more.
shopping, remember those collared shirts with the little alligator or polo player on the chest? Kids flaunted their wealth by wearing Lacoste and Ralph Lauren polos in the late 1980s. These were just the kind of shirts you would buy at the mall, and although they were perfect for a morning tennis lesson, they were also a classic school look for many well-to-do kids.
Polo and
Most of us had a standard heavy wooden console TV sitting in our living room in the 1980s, but all of us dreamt of a big screen TV. These weren't quite the same as we are used to today, because they still sat on the floor encased in wood, and they had larger projection screens that were the top of the line during this time. Some even had a drawer that pulled out to expose
That
the projector,
like
and a 50-inch TV was as big as you could get.
that damn thing looked like a a a tool chest type of. That's a TV. Lord have mercy. I mean, boy, that thing is taking up a lot of space. What the hell is that? 12 by 12? That thing is huge. Look like, man. Oh no. Like I said, we had a big TV with a little TV on top.
That pulled out to expose the projector, and a 50-inch TV was as big as you could get. Do you remember when you discovered that they made refrigerators that dispensed both ice and water? It was probably when you were visiting a friend's house, and instead of them going over to the sink faucet, they stood in front of the fridge and filled up a tall glass of ice water, which left you jealous and wide-eyed. Not only did they have a new fancy fridge with French doors, but they also had an automatic ice maker that meant they never had to fill up ice trays. And they always had cold water, which just tasted like the lap of luxury.
None of my friends had those.
During the mid to late 1980s, basketball sneakers were becoming a popular way to flaunt your riches. And there was no bigger shoe than Air Jordans.
Boy.
A pair of Jordans would set you back around $100 during the 1980s. And that's why most of us were still...
This man said $100 in the 80s. Now you can multiply that, especially for my foot, 300. Size 14 with tax. 3 something out the door. Look at them. Look at those, man. In the 80s, $100. Now you got to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to try to get them online. They don't even be selling them in the store like that, especially my size. Boy.
Wearing Converse sneakers. As each new Air Jordan was released, it was interesting to see who would actually show up to school wearing them. And you can bet there were plenty of kids oohing and eyeing over them. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything, and make sure to sign up for the Recollection Road newsletter using the link in the description.
I know there's some time left in the video, but they're talking about the Legacy box. I had seen that one already. Jordan 2s, I ain't got those. I kind of want them, but they look kind of like, it's just some shoes, like for my size 14, you know, they just look a little, I don't know. I might get them though, but hey, all my 80s babies, if you grew up like I grew up, we didn't have a lot of that stuff. Probably didn't know it existed. And like I said, I live in these apartment buildings. And I was pretty much cool with all the kids in the neighborhood, but I really don't. It was only maybe a couple of them that either came in my apartment or I went in theirs. So some people may have been living a little better than us. I don't know what their apartment looked like inside, but I did not remember nobody having the water with the ice refrigerator, nothing like that. I just feel like as a kid, man, we were outside so much, either playing basketball or football, or tag, hide and go seek, just all type of stuff, man. Just having fun. You know, when that Nintendo came out, you couldn't tell us nothing. And the grades were great. The biggest thing, the biggest thing now is cell phones. If you took cell phones away and just had like the house phone, you would see a lot more. Like, kids don't have attention spans, because like watching TikTok videos, they can't watch long videos anymore because of TikTok. So you show them a 3-minute video, they're like, 3 minutes, you know. This was great. This was great. I don't necessarily agree with the title as far as rich kids had in the 1980s. I just feel like it may have been both parents in the house. They were working. It's not like they were rich. It's just they had a job they were going to every day, and they were coming home and providing for their kids. A lot of us growing up did not have that. Then there was a lot of people in single parent homes, and you know, it might have been kids just, you know. But I guess if you had two parents that were working, you were rich. I didn't get my first pair of Jordans until I probably was about Jordans. I remember I brought Kobe shoes, his Adidas, the Crazy Eights, when they came out when I was 16, because I got me a job either at McDonald's or I was working at my school. I remember I saved up for those. But Jordan-wise, I was probably in my 20s. I don't know. But all right, again, appreciate you guys coming over. Hope y'all enjoyed, man. This was great. This was so great, man. Shout out to them for the video. What was the thing you remembered the most, or did you have or didn't have? Please comment. All right, peace out.